Welcome to Sticking to the Truth with Juleen Jackson and Debbie Jansen. Hi, Juleen. I'm so glad to be with you today.
Great to be here, Deb.
Well, I'm trying to be a bit more calm and change my focus. America is doing well thanks to the efforts of President Trump. However, liberal individuals are about as crazy as a bear on psychedelic drugs. They don't know whether to growl, fight, or lay in a fetal position. And I honestly don't know how President Trump keeps going. I've thought about it a lot, and I think the only way through this is to do for America what he's doing for Iran. And no, don't take that to the wrong place. I'm not saying there should be any war with the American people. That's not what I'm talking about. But we do have a people problem. We need to get illegals out of our country, but that won't solve all of our violence and anger problem. Our people don't understand American freedoms and responsibilities. At least about half of them don't. Trump and every parent in America needs to take a stand and help younger generations understand that just being mad is not a purpose. Just being angry and yelling at everybody is not a goal for your life. You need to be smart and logical. You need to know the facts about what you're supporting and why you're supporting it. These young, hateful, psychedelic bears are not smart or logical. They're just out of control. So we need to help our families and young people by teaching them that what America stands for. What did our forefathers want to build, and why does it matter? But before we talk about the psychedelic bears, Juleen, how are you doing, darling?
Well, this is going to be fun. Psychedelic bears. I mean, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to figure out what exactly that means. But before we begin to think that, oh man, we've lost our rising generation. They're tripping out on who knows what. I just have to tell you an experience I had this weekend. I was in Idaho Falls with my three other sisters. Now we range from 68 down to 51. And we went to a Christian concert. It was a sold out crowd in this new arena in Idaho Falls, 6,000 people. And it was Jeremy Camp. Have you heard of any of these
Yeah.
Christian singers? Jeremy Camp, Crowther, and Toby Mac. He's my favorite. I really like him. They're all great. But, it was interesting. On one side of me was about 5 little 80-year-olds, it seemed. And then on the side of my sister, there was a 10-year-old there with his auntie. Then in the row before us, there was a mama and a daddy and like a 16-year-old sister, then 12, 11, 8. And we all, for 3.5 hours from 7 to 10:30, we listened to the most beautiful music bearing testimony of redemption and hope and the power of Christ in your life. And the singers throughout the concert would, testify and witness of God's influence in their life. And we all left that evening, all ages, old, young, middles, in betweens, so lifted up, wanting to be better and to do better. And so, there's hope. These kind of events never make the headlines, right?
Right.
But they're happening.
Oh, that's great. I love that because you're exactly right. And like I said, it's 50-50. Maybe it's even 30% that don't understand and 70% that does. The problem is the people that don't understand, they grow and they create more like them. And our goal should be to get everybody on board with what we are. Now, the reason I brought up Psychedelic Bears is what happened over the weekend. Two young men, Mr. Blatt and Mr. Kayumi from Philadelphia, went to a New York, very small right-wing protest, and that protest was called Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City. It was being held in front of Mondani's home, and the mayor wasn't there. But while they were protesting, one of those two young men, I think it was Balat, that I mentioned, he ran up and threw a homemade bomb into the crowd. Now, they were against the protesters because they talked about ISIS when they were captured, and they talked about how they were so intent on making people follow what Iran was all about. Um, Thank goodness the bomb did not explode. The police reported that if it had, it would have killed many people. What a shame. There's more to the story, but when I saw their picture and their age, that's what started me thinking about psychedelic bears. But when I saw their picture and their age, Julian, they were just 18 and 19 years old.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I just felt sick. These young men have totally destroyed their life for a lie. They claim ISIS is their motivation, and if they hadn't done this, other people would. They just wanted to kill those protesters. It takes a lot of hate and anger at age 18 or 19 to want to kill people over an idea. Now, you and I know that most liberals and protesters are really angry. Even in Congress, they're getting angry. They can't talk to you without losing their mind. Two sentences into a conversation, and their brain locks on target. The cocaine mental cocaine kicks in, and then they're ready to kill or fight with you. Let's take it outside. Let's go. Let's come to blows on this. They are attacking bears. And I don't think an attacking bear is going to stop and ask you how you're feeling. He's probably not going to ask for a manicure. He's just mad, and any poke from you will cause violence. Now, before I hand this over to you, a much calmer and nicer person, I think, Julie, before I hand this over to you, let me say this. While I'm frustrated and too many people are willing to destroy their life to be angry, violent, and stupid, there's another side that breaks my heart. Ron told me last night that I think it's Jesse Waters was interviewing some people and was asking them, "What do you think about Iran and what do you think about communism?" None of them could answer. They said, "I don't know what that is. What's going on over there?" Well, that doesn't involve me. That makes me sad. That makes me want to help them and say, "Hey, you need to learn something." But I keep wondering, how did these young men go from being a sweet, cute toddler playing with dad to a raging bear that just wants to kill everyone in sight? How did that happen? It makes me so sad because both sides lose. It's not just the bear. Both sides, conservative and liberals, are hurt. Both sides will be oppressed in one way or another. The truth is that anger, hate, prejudice, and violence never gives you a good life. It never works. It will only destroy you, and no one will remember who you really were. Hate equals death. What are we going to do about this, Juleen?
Woo! Well, Americans really do have a cause to be concerned. So I was just in Idaho with my sisters. Two of them live in Idaho Falls, and they said in their community, an Islamic mosque is being built. Now, this is like a very family-fied, conservative, Christian little town, and a mosque is going up in the community.
Wow.
Now, Deb, that's not to say that all Muslims are bad, right? Muslims, did you know, make up 24% of the world's population? There's 8.2, I think, billion people in the world.
Wow.
Muslims make up 24% of that population. And to be honest with you, I live in Washington, D.C. My family, we do a lot of interfaith work in our church with some Muslim communities. But the radical element of any religion can be harmful and even
Yes.
dangerous. And we're seeing some of that, right? With the terrorism around the world and now even infiltrating into our country and this instance in New York. And so, it's one thing if people want to migrate here legally, right, and assimilate into our culture and our traditions, but when they want to take over, we're now on alert, right?
Yeah.
Americans, those that are rooted in truth and history and principle, need to speak up. We need to, we can't hide and slither into the woodwork, so to speak. So many of these young kids have not been taught the stories and miracles of America or to love America. So they're just going on emotion, right? They're completely oblivious to the founding of our founding fathers who felt that they were a remnant of the house of Israel, and hence they covenanted to be one nation under God, and God promised to put that umbrella of protection and to prosper our land. Now, when you haven't had those teachings and those stories ingrained in you, you're easily influenced and radicalized by groups of people that want to destroy America. And I think this is what we're seeing. Just this morning, you've heard me talk about family devotionals that I've had with my 5
Yeah.
children
Yeah.
through their life. And we just have one little child left at home. She's 18. She's a senior in high school. But every morning we study the Bible together. I teach her a principle of freedom and liberty. We say of the pledge. She reads out of the 5,000-year leap. And this morning we talked about Jacob in Genesis and how he'd kind of tricked his brother out of his birthright. And so he had to flee into the desert. And he slept that night on a pillow made of rocks. And, he kind of gotten himself in this predicament, but God still showed up and reminded him. He said, "Look, I will keep you. I will not leave you. I will bring you back to your land someday." And ultimately, I think he's saying to us, "I will heal your land someday if we will stay true to him. We will receive these same promises that God gave to Jacob, that we will receive these promises here in America." Our founders felt that, as we were a part of this covenanted land, this was a chosen and set apart land, that God would watch over us. So, you get those kind of teachings in a child. You get those stories of God's dealings with his children and for the land that he loves and preserves and so forth. These kids aren't going to want to be hurling bombs into crowds and hurting
Yeah.
people, kind of thing. And so they're going to want to be a part of, the solution and not the problem. When you know how God works with his children, when you understand his promises, that it gives you a sense of identity, right? And purpose. And you're not about destroying and tearing down and destruction and violence and hate. And so, this is what we've got to do. We've got to, mamas and daddies and grandmas and grandpas and good, God-fearing people have got to lift our voice and help teach this rising generation.
I love it. I love it. You're exactly right. And as always, you gave me a new thought while you were talking. I love it, Juleen. I agree that the family controls the child's viewpoint on America and our great heritage. And I agree that immigrants should come in and assimilate here with all of us. But while you were talking, I was thinking, does that mean they give up their Muslim faith? No, I don't agree with the Muslim faith, but I think the problem that I have with that, or that a lot of people have with that, is that in America, we want good laws, good people, no violence. And Muslims sometimes, not all of them, because like you
No.
say, I have known some people that were calm and okay, but some of them come into this country with an attitude of I'm going to take over.
Right.
And maybe that's why people in a fully Christian community are a little put off by a mosque coming in. Are they going to want to take over?
Right.
Because they want to instill Sharia law. They want to have their
Call.
calls to prayer all
Right.
during the day and to pound that out to everyone in the community. Um, so I think we're okay with them They just have to really assimilate to what we know. And here's the other problem. If mom and dad are ignorant or not willing to learn about America, they will produce a kid that doesn't want to know about America or faith or Christianity or anything like that. And our biggest problem may be that parents don't know the truth and they can't talk logically about our country. I've talked to a lot of illogical, crazy adult bears. Yeah, calm down, Debbie, calm down. I was trying to have a nice conversation with a 20-something bear, and I was asking about her work, and she made a statement about kids in school and that she was working with, and I mentioned a study that proved her thinking was wrong. She did not have a psych degree. I did. She has not worked in schools like I have, and so I felt like I was on safe ground. Well, she put her hand on her hip and she gave me a tisk, 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 followed by, and hold on to your seat, Juleen, followed by, well, it doesn't matter how many facts you give me. If I don't believe it, then it's not true. Now let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
That means you can't have any truth other than what she really believes. That's not the definition of truth. What do you think, Juleen?
Well, that's what happens when your truth is based on emotion, right? It's very trendy. Your truth will be changing every so often with the tides and the winds, so to speak. I had a young girl. I talked to her the other day. She works for Georgetown University here in Washington D.C. for over a decade, and she said the kids a decade ago were kind of opposed to traditional gender roles. They didn't necessarily want to get married and have children, and they were more secular, really. She noticed that the young people coming into the university now, they're different. She said they want to get married. They want to have boyfriends. They talk about having children. I mean, aren't willing to cancel you out just because you have a difference of opinion because they understand life is more nuanced. It's almost like she thinks because the pendulum swung so far to the left that this young generation coming up are yearning for more traditional roots, maybe even more spiritual roots that they saw maybe in a grandma or great grandma that they might not have seen played out or taught to them in their home by their parents. And I have an example. My little nephew, who is 10 years old, his father, this is my husband's brother, was raised in the church, just like my husband. But his daddy doesn't go to church anymore and hasn't raised this little boy in the church. But this little 10-year-old sees grandma and grandpa going to, the Baptist church every Sunday and sees us and his little cousins, going to church, and we've invited him to different functions. And I sense there's a yearning, there's a curiosity, with him because it wasn't taught to him. And he's seeing the extremes of the world, right? And
Right.
I think when these young kids that maybe haven't been taught for a generation or two from a parent or even a grandparent, that when they come searching or seeking, we need to make sure that our hands are open, that the doors, are open, and we're willing to receive them and to mentor them and to tutor them up.
Yeah. Oh, man, I really agree. And who did you say that was that you were watching that said that?
My little nephew.
No, the podcaster?
A little gal that I know that works in Georgetown.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's a friend. She worked
She's
at
just
George
a friend?
Yeah,
Okay.
worked at
Well,
Georgetown for 10 years and is noticing a difference between young kids today versus 10 years ago enrolling in the university.
well, she's exactly right because yesterday I heard some good news too. Isabel Brown was on, she's a popular podcast host and she was on Fox and Friends, and she was talking about more and more young people are warming up to the idea, like you said that marriage and having children is a better way to live. So instead of opting to stay away from marriage and children, a new surge of young people have decided that being part of the family is the right thing to do. And just like your friend, I'm encouraged to hear that.
Yeah.
I was an only child because my mother couldn't conceive anymore, but God blessed me with 3 great children. I had twins. I always have to do it that way because that was quite, being an only child and then go for twins. Whoa! And then I had a wonderful single, and I simply cannot imagine my life without them. But one of our goals as parents was to make sure that they were prepared for life. We made sure they knew how to succeed, how to have good relationships, like you, how to put faith into their life. We also gave them a respect for our wonderful country and the freedoms we enjoy. They knew their world and appreciated it. I think there are some people out there that simply don't know what's going on or they don't care. So I only hope these new young adults who want to have families know how to raise smart, logical, compassionate, good people. And I'm sure if they're going for that, they will.
Yeah. Deb, I've had the opportunity to meet your little bear twins, and they're adults, and they're wonderful. I mean, they're just marvelous human beings. I mean, and your little grandchildren as well. And I think that they're, as we reach out and help these young people, and we saw this surge, right, with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, that it
Yes.
resonated. This message resonated with them, and these revivals that are going on, and I like to still think they're going on. Awakening these young people. I mean, they not only want to talk about God now and morality, they actually want to live lives that are keeping with his commandments, and it's beautiful to see. So we need to be, like we talked about, we need to be ready. We need to welcome them into our churches, into our homes, and into our hearts. I think I've told you that my husband and I work in our church congregation with a segment of young single adults ages 18 to 35. We've had this church assignment calling, they call it, for almost a decade now. And just 2 days ago, and this is actually really common, the kind of interaction we have with these kind of young kids. But one young man wanted to meet Al, my husband, for lunch because he wanted some career advice. And so Al spent an hour with this kid, kind of tutoring him along. And then that afternoon, a young girl came over and spent probably an hour on the couch. She's getting into her 30s now, and wanted some advice about life, and she wants to be married. And so we counseled her through that. And then that evening, a little gal called and said, Juleen, can we pray? There's some jobs I've interviewed for, and I really need one. And then she started telling me about the guy she's dating. So we, threw him in the prayer as well. And so, this is what I'm talking about. We have to be willing to, like, put our arm around the shoulders of these young kids that are seeking and searching, and guide them along, whether it's calls or texts or visits or lunches. I mean, love is spelled Time. We've got to give them some of our time. And I
Yes.
dare
Yeah.
say we're going to see some beautiful results. If enough God-fearing people will do that, we can help save a generation that has been kind of lost.
Oh, I love it, Juleen. You're exactly right. And I love the time issue. Yeah, that is exactly how you do it. Um, Before we go, we're kind of running out of time, but I have to say this to encourage anyone out there that is thinking about not getting married or not having children. I hope you know that when your life ends, that's it. There's no legacy. There's nothing that comes after that. The beautiful part, and I too know your children, and they are wonderful, amazing. And we have worked very hard to take who we are, you, Juleen, and me, and instill it in a loving, kind way into our children to say, hey, this is why I am like I am, and this is how I have lived my life. And if you go this other way, this is the problems you'll see. And if you go this way, this is what will happen to you. And we create a legacy of good people going forward. Life does not get better if you have to reinvent the wheel every marriage, you know? You need that legacy of children and family, and I think that's why God created that. Anyway, maybe the real solution for taming the psychedelic bears is to replace them with mama bears. What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, "Mama bears, rise up. Dad, we need the daddy bears too to protect, these baby bears. We cannot be found down on the job. We've gotta teach the baby bears and the tweens and the teens and the young adults. I mean, we can't be hibernating here. We gotta come out of our
We're really running with this, aren't we?
Why not?
Oh, goodness. Well, my tip for today is for all of our listeners to get out there and enjoy this wonderful country. It is a beautiful, wonderful country. And with the weather getting better, take your kids to a historical monument or a park. There's a lot going on for the 250th celebration here in America. So let's enjoy it and be thankful for our country. In fact, you and I, Juleen, and our families are going to participate in the rededication of America. And where's that at? At the mall in
Yeah,
Washington.
yeah.
I can't wait to stand there in Washington, D.C. and pray for our country. So we need God to heal our land, and let's pray for that.
Yeah. Beautiful, Deb. Well, I think my tip of the day comes from family devotional this morning with my little girl, not so little anymore. But, when the Lord told uh, Jacob to get back to the land of his fathers, that he would be with him and he wouldn't, leave him, and that the land would be returned to him. I think the Lord is saying to us, get back to the traditions of your fathers, the land of your fathers, the traditions of your father. And we do that as we pray as a family, as we study the Bible, as we go to church, as we serve in our communities and within our families. And those are the traditions, of our fathers, so to speak. And I just loved it when Jacob and Esau met for the first time after all those years, and they fell on each other's shoulders, and they kissed, and they had repented, and they had forgiven of each other, and they both admitted that God had dealt with them graciously, and it was enough. Everything they didn't need any more gifts. They were trying to give each other gifts. They didn't need gifts, that God had given them everything that they needed. And what we have in this land is enough. We just need to return back to our history and to the devotion of God and to his teachings and to his commandments, and open our eyes to what we have here and how blessed we are, to count our blessings for what we have, one nation under God, and that it is enough. We just need to return back to the land, back to the traditions of our fathers. So, as we get to work and do these things, it's going to justify the heavens to intervene and to fulfill these promises that God gave his children anciently and has given us today.
Oh, that's beautiful, Juleen. Thank you so much. I hope all our listeners will subscribe to this podcast and join us again. And thanks again to our wonderful producer, Ken Jansen, my son, and terrific. This is Debbie Jansen, and I'm sticking to the truth.
And I'm Juleen Jackson, and we hope that you will keep sticking to the truth. We will see you next time.
Bye bye.